Guys, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Thin the Herd. I'm your host, Alex Getlin. Saw you guys on Tuesday. I'm back today. It is Thursday, July 23rd. And this is my podcast I do solo. Some of you guys, if you're just tuning in for the first time, thanks for checking it out. Maybe you've heard my other podcast, House Rules, I do with my fiance, Rachel LaForce. But either way, this is my solo podcast. Sometimes, just knocked over my phone. I'm trying to do too many things at once. Look how ridiculous that was. I'm trying to live stream this shit and everything else. Anyway, this is my solo podcast. Sometimes get into some news, do some commentary. It's a little bit of, I started this with interviews with people, just something interesting to do. Now it's a little bit of kind of just my take on what's going on. But I wanted to jump into something, man, because and by the way, I live stream this too. Some of you guys might be watching this live stream right now. Thank you for doing that. Always appreciated. You might be hearing the pre-recorded version later on iTunes, whatever else, Spotify. And that's great too. So thank you for that. If you enjoy it. Some of you guys have been giving me feedback, by the way. So thank you for that. It's always awesome. I got a little bit of feedback, and it's like, stop worrying about, trying to read off headline stuff and just talk about what's going on. And that's what I'm going to do right now. Because basically, the whole reason I started this, by the way, is I started a podcast a while ago interviewing people. I stopped doing interviews during COVID because I only was able to do like Zoom interviews and stuff. And I don't know. I don't enjoy that. And then I started just transitioning it into doing like a solo, kind of just my commentary on what's going on, kind of giving my thoughts on what's going on in the world. And what's funny is I felt like I needed, as a comic, as a stand-up, if anybody who knows me for some reason, or is listening rather, didn't know that I do stand-up, or at least I did until all this COVID nonsense. I found myself like needing like an outlet where I wanted to just like take my, views on the world and put them out there. So I started getting more and more into doing this solo pod. And the funny thing is, we've been in this new situation now since March. So that's all of April, May, June. We're basically about to hit, like, I think 4 full months of this. We're pretty much at 4 full months. I think my math is right on that. And a lot of my friends who are comics, I see them posting a lot or talking a lot about how much they miss stand-up, how hard it's been without it. Weirdly, I don't actually miss it that much. Now, I'll preface by saying doing a great stand-up gig is my favorite thing in the world. Like a fun show where the crowd wants to be there and everything's hot. That will always be my all-time favorite thing. I'm always going to miss that. But I weirdly don't at all miss everything else. And I miss the hang. I miss, like, there's kind of this unique hang that comics have after a show or before a show, but especially after. If it's a really great gig or like it's a fun kind of indie show, a bunch of comics hang out and shoot the shit. I do miss that. I do miss that. That's been tough to not have. But, I don't know, man. I just feel like the longer I'm away from it, the less I miss like all the other bullshit that comes along with it. If you're not in the stand-up world, this might not, totally make sense to you, but it's so funny to me. Like, being away from it, taking a step back, I've realized a lot that, like, most of my best friends are comedians that I know, and a lot of my favorite people. I've met a lot of really like interesting people, unique people from all different backgrounds that I never would have met otherwise, and that I really appreciate. But I've also realized, like, I feel like, especially here in LA, Boston too, when I was there, so many of the people that I was interacting with, like, day to day, they're just so miserable, and I don't know if that's because and I've been a comic since about 2012 when I really started doing it. In 2014 is when I got like super serious about it. But it's interesting because I, especially when you're not, like, obviously I'm not famous or anything. I made a little money doing stand-up here and there, but I was never like a full-time touring comic. So a lot of the folks that I would interact with day to day, a lot of the other comics that I would be around day to day were, at my level, right? They're basically not full-time, or if they are full-time, they're not like well-known names, etc. My only point is, it was interesting being around like so many people that just had these kind of like, to generalize, they were just like broken, basically. I felt a lot of people, like, even though they like doing stand-up, which is great, I don't know, I felt like a lot of them like should have been in therapy or something. I feel like, especially at the open mic circuit, there were so many comics, male, female, of all backgrounds, etc., who, like, they had jokes, kind of, but it really felt like they were just taking, like, misdirected anger at the world or whatever their situation was and just like spewing it out, which is fine. Like, that's great. If that's your outlet, that's awesome. But I really felt like, man, like a lot of these folks, I think they need to see like professional help. Maybe do stand up too, but kind of like find some way to like channel that, anger and negativity into something better. So anyway, my only point is like, 4 months away from basically no stand up. I know there's like Zoom shows going on now. Not my thing. There's like been a couple drive-in shows. I'm not in a rush to do any of those. And it's just been interesting. Like, I'm surprised at how little I miss it. Now, I miss the best parts of it for sure, obviously. But all the other just kind of like, social networking bullshit politics that come along with it just really, I don't know. Like, I'm in a weird way, I'm kind of happy to an extent that stand-up is kind of on hiatus, because I don't have, like, I would always have this like nagging urge whenever I would do anything at home. What's funny is my fiance, Rachel LaForce, who, as I mentioned previously, if you watch our podcast House Rules, she is my very funny co-host on there. She's the one who like really like enlightened me to how important it is to just like rest. Don't always go all the time. You need to like take a minute, like decompress, recharge, get back to like your best self. And whenever I would do that, I always felt like this voice in the back of my head, like, you're not networking enough. You're not at enough shows. And now that like that doesn't exist anymore, like I feel great, honestly. Like I really do. And I miss doing stand-up. I'm going to do it again whenever the world resumes, whenever we get back there. But it's like, so many of my friends who are comics, I see them posting or they're talking about like, they have this like crazy, like they're missing this void in their life, right? And for me, I feel like I've kind of moved laterally, doing this, doing my other podcasts. I have other projects I'm working on. And I certainly miss live performance. Like nothing can ever replace that. But I don't know. It's just been like something I was thinking about last night and today. I mean, I've been kind of thinking about this as the pandemic's been going on and this new reality that we're in. And, pre-COVID, if somebody were to say to me, hey, how do you think you're going to feel if like you can't do stand-up for an non-defined amount of time, maybe never again? I think I would have thought I would be like depressed and just at a loss. But honestly, like I'm like surprised at how little I'm not upset by it, And I guess what it's the biggest thing, like I said, is all the bullshit with and I don't want to get too much in the weeds because people who aren't comics are going to be like, okay, whatever. Like this lexicon you're going into, it doesn't matter to me. But it's just an interesting thing that I've realized, and I've kind of like, I'm okay with it. I certainly love stand-up. I plan to keep doing it again whenever things do resume. But I definitely am surprisingly pleased at how little I'm not like, when I've sort of just, I don't know. I don't know if one of my friends, my buddy Anjan, who's very funny, he has a great podcast called Midlife ISIS. He knew me back in my Boston comedy days. And when I was in Boston, I went through like a pretty nasty breakup. And it really wasn't that bad, honestly. Like it was a bummer. It was unfortunate. But it was like the worst one that I personally had gone through. And about 2 weeks after that, I pretty much was just like, all right, well, this is my life. Get back to it. And whenever he like pointed out to me, he was like, dude, how are you not, like, you just don't care and you just move on? And I don't know. I will preface by saying I've never had any like real trauma or tragedy that I've gone through. Thank God. I'm very blessed in that sense. But yeah, I don't know. Just another example for me where I felt like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is what it is. You just got to adjust and move on. So anyway, my only point is with anybody who obviously, look, that could be a bit unique to me. I'm not going to speak for anybody else here, of course. But my only point is anybody who's like struggling to feel like, man, like this new reality, it's so tough. I don't know what to do. For me, whatever advice I'm trying to give here, if there were any, I'm really more of just kind of, sharing my thoughts. Again, this podcast is not super defined. I was going to try and steer it like, hey, this is my political take on stuff. And I just, after the last episode where I was trying to do that, I realized there's enough of that. I'm not like a political guy. I have my thoughts on politics, and I'm going to drop those in here and there. But really, this is just like, a podcast I do a couple times a week where I just talk about what's on my mind. And if you listen to it, thank you. But anyway, on that tangent, because I go on a lot of them, I've realized for me at least, stand up being my favorite thing, it's gone now. You just got to move laterally. You just got to adjust. You just got to figure out what else can you do that's kind of within arm's reach. That could be something that's an option for you. Because we have this, I think we've got an addiction to anger now. I think we're in this place where we just kind of get off on being outraged. I mean, I know it's been, I feel like it really started in 2016 after the election is when maybe that's when I first started to notice it. But now it seems like every day it gets more and more intense. And I catch myself going down those roads. I catch myself sometimes going into that place where, I don't know, maybe like it gives me some minor, I don't know. I weirdly catch myself looking at things that I know are going to upset me for some reason. I don't know why, but it's happened. But I've noticed the most often, it happens more often than anywhere else, is on Facebook, which is pretty much just a dumpster fire. Now, I know that's a little ironic to say that because I'm currently live streaming this on Facebook and on YouTube. And that's really more of just the fact that, like, that's the tool that's available. If there was a better place to stream this, I would do it. But that's where we're at. But I've done something recently where I realized that, like, so many people, and this goes back to being a comedian, so many people on my Facebook feed are people that I don't even know. I really don't know them at all. They're just like random comics that I've met at an open mic, or I don't even know them. They just friended me because of the suggestion thing. And a buddy of mine, I won't say his name on here because I don't know if he wants me to share this, but what he told me what he's done on his Facebook, he has unfollowed every single thing that's on there except for his own like podcast page that he uses to promote. And I'm not quite there yet, but I have started this new thing. I first was at a place where if anybody posted anything I don't like, I unfollow them, which was kind of a start. But now I've gotten to the point where if somebody pops up on my Facebook and I don't remember who they are, immediately unfollow. I'll still say they're friend. I'm not going to block them unless they do something really egregious. But sure, like I'll leave them on there. But really, I'm slowly paring down my Facebook to just be my family members, my immediate social circle, and people or accounts that I find super interesting, which is really what it started as, I think, or like what it was kind of a lot of people used it as in the beginning, and really what it's supposed to be. Because it's so funny, man. Like, I posted this thing earlier this morning, and it was a clip from the most recent Joe Rogan podcast. He had Ben Shapiro on, and they were talking about why the homelessness problem in LA has gotten so out of control. And for the record, Ben Shapiro and Rogan are two of my favorite podcasters. I really like those guys. And Ben Shapiro is a very conservative podcaster. It's a very politically conservative focused podcast. I don't consider myself a conservative. I have some conservative leaning views. Mostly they're all in terms of like financial stuff, the economy, and kind of like immigration, national security type things. I don't have any, I think of myself as pretty liberal on everything social. But that aside from the point, I just shared this post. I didn't even make a point about my opinions on Ben Shapiro or Rogan. I literally just posted this clip it was a screenshot of Rogan and Shapiro, and the caption's like, they discuss LA's homelessness problem. And like all these like super liberal, and again, I'm pretty liberal on a lot of stuff, but all these like super liberal comics who I barely know are like posting like, Ben Shapiro, fuck that guy. Bleh. And that's cool, man. I don't care. Have your opinion. Yeah, like say whatever you want. But it's just funny to me that like that is what Facebook is becoming. I mean, it's been that way for so long, but it was like almost like a duh moment where it's like, oh, right. This is just a place where like if I share a thing that I kind of like that you don't like, it's like that's where you just want to tell me, hey, you're wrong. This stuff is dumb. So, I'm not going to remove their comments. Post whatever you want. Say whatever you want. I don't care. But it is funny to me that like I've just seen so much more of that. And I don't think it's like some plan by Facebook to like, organize it that way. I think it's just the nature of the way things are and how we interact now. But yeah, I've felt so much better just going, because I do like using Facebook to discover interesting news articles from sources that I, appreciate going to. And then seeing like my friends' pictures of their kids, my family members, things like that. Like I'm like, oh, that's my buddy from college. Look at his cute daughter now. Like that's adorable. Like it's a way for me to kind of stay up to date on the things that are like nice little check-ins with friends. But yeah, anybody who I like don't have a real relationship with, I'm just going to immediately unfollow you. And I recommend this to other people too. If you catch yourself getting in these like Facebook anger loops, which is very easy to fall into, just try it. You can always unfollow them. It doesn't, and if you don't know, by the way, unfollowing, all it means is that their stuff doesn't pop up in your news feed. I don't know if that makes it, but they don't see you. I think they still see your stuff. But you can still go to their page. You can always unfollow them. But it's just been like such a refreshing thing for me to be able to, because I do like going on Facebook for what it's supposed to be. I like going on there and seeing pictures of my buddies and their families and, guys I grew up with. Like, man, that's so cool. Or seeing, interesting, tech news or political news that I like to see. And yeah, man, it's definitely like, that's my advice for the day. If I were to give any, is just shrink your Facebook circle, cut out the garbage. You really don't need it. And you can always go back, but it's been awesome. And to clarify also, excuse me, to people who post, comments of like, oh, this thing you posted sucks, this thing is garbage, go for it. I'm never going to remove your comment unless it's like you say something really disgusting, which fortunately doesn't happen to me. I'm not really a public figure that way yet. Maybe one day, hopefully. You guys can like and subscribe and share. Thank you. But I think it's fine. Yeah, share that you don't like. I'm probably not going to respond. I would respond to you in person. If I was talking to somebody like face to face and they were like, oh, you like Ben Shapiro and Joe Rogan's podcasts? Like, and we could have like a back and forth in-person dialogue and we could exchange some ideas, like, and they could share with me why they think they're problematic and I could share why I think that's fine to have that opinion, but I personally disagree. That I'm down for. But on Facebook, I'm just never going to engage you. And I encourage other people to do this. Don't have a debate or argument with, like, it's so weird to me when I see multi comment threads of people like going at each other, trying to have an argument. Like, this is the raw, and Facebook has its own like FaceTime app, I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm pretty sure they have that. You should just do that. Just go and in person is always the best, but the next step, you could still do it safely with COVID and everything. If you really want to have this discussion, go and have the face-to-face debate. Do it. Why? You clearly have this view very strongly. You wanted to write all these comments out. But it's weird, like, people don't want to do that. They just want to, like, write the comment and be like, yeah, I showed you. And that's cool, man. Whatever gets through the day, fine. If that really makes you feel better, go for it. But I really encourage everybody to just do that less. Now, the one caveat I will say is if you post something really either that's like blatantly false or like gross or something, then maybe there's a back and forth. But it's just so funny. And I have so many of my Hollywood, LA comedy friends that are like so much more liberal than me. And again, I think of myself as a pretty liberal guy. I'm a pretty liberal guy on a lot of stuff. I think the war on drugs is complete garbage. We should end it immediately. I'm all for police reform. I'm all for prison reform. I'm all for, reforming the way we tax the rich and social values, all that stuff. I just have a couple things conservatively that I lean towards. And it's like, we're in this world now where if you're 1 foot in the camp of the other group to be so binary, even though I think we really, as I talked about last episode, we got to end this whole binary conservative or liberal type mindset in our country. We really need to have we should always have as many gender identities as we do political identities, right? Like, I know I mentioned it before, but like how Colin Quinn's special Red State, Blue State, he jokes about how there's like 47 genders and 2 political parties. Which your political ideology is obviously way more indicative of who you are as a person, what you care about, what you believe, what you stand for, than the gender identity and pronoun you want. And I'm fine with you having both. My point was, though, what was my point? I know I went on kind of a rant for a second, and I got a little off topic here. But my point, I think what I was saying is just stop. If you see something on Facebook that you don't like, react however you react. But if you're the kind of person who is like prone to be like, I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna prove you wrong, maybe just like take a week and don't do that and see how you feel. And if you see people sharing stuff that you think is false or incorrect, whatever, I understand that. I would encourage you to try the unfollow rule. because I know you probably think at some point you're like, hey, I got to prove them wrong. Just honestly, I think, at least temporarily, let's agree, it's just not going to happen. I mean, how many people's, honestly, I wish there was a way to study how many people's mind actually have been changed by a comment under a post they made that disagreed with their post. It's got to be less than 10%. It really, because that's not the way to do it. That's like I said before. If somebody posted something that was just blatantly false or gross or whatever, if I really felt compelled to have a debate with that person, I would probably privately message them, be like, hey, I actually really disagree with you. If you wouldn't mind, I'd love to have a 20-minute Zoom call with you. We could chat. If you don't, that's fine too. But we've just lost the ability to have civil discourse in this world. It's so strange. So anyway, I'm gonna go on that tangent more, I guess, if I keep going. I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but I just want to encourage people to do less of that, to do less of that, I'm going to show you. Okay, so enough on the Facebook stuff, because I'm going to go on and on about that, because we're caught in these anger loops. Oh, yeah, this is the other thing, too. What's going on in Portland, guys? I'm not in Portland right now. I haven't been in Portland. I would love it if somebody who's been there or knows the city well can really, inform me about what's actually going on, because the way the news is spinning it, the way the news is making it seem is that, they're trying to make it feel like Portland is an occupied city where, Trump's personal army is marching in there. And just for the record, as I've said many, many times, I am not a Trump supporter. I am not a Trump fan. I don't know if he's a worse pick than Biden for the fall. I haven't decided yet. I'm simply saying I'm not one of these MAGA people. So hang tight with that bullshit if you're coming at me. However, it is sort of ridiculous to me that, again, my super liberal, dude, what's funny? I would so be ready to, identify myself as a liberal if the loudest voices that identify as liberals online weren't kind of you're either all with us or you're a Nazi. And again, I know I'm generalizing here, but it feels like the loudest people on social media have co-opted what this is supposed to be. But it's so funny, man, that my super left leaning friends are Portland's being occupied. We can't stand for this. We got to take it back. It's okay, first of all, they're literally burning the federal courthouse, wherever the building is. It's not like the military is marching into Portland and ripping people out of their homes. For months straight, people have been, oh, what's up, dog? Shout out from Maui. By the way, I'm live streaming on Facebook and Instagram, so thank you. Yeah, I got a shout out from Maui. And if you guys are watching, by the way, I always appreciate if you just say what's up or you have any comments or thoughts. I do stream this live. If you want to interact, you don't have to, but I always enjoy it just, in case you want to, say what's up. But it's just so funny that the military being in a U.S. city now in response to protesters literally just destroying federal buildings has now gotten morphed into this idea that it's an occupied city. And I don't know, the weird thing to me is what response did you guys expect? What did you think? They're burning federal buildings. They're destroying public property. What scenario could exist where I don't know. It just seems weird. It just seems like everybody's so excited to be this is the problem. Everything's wrong. And no one has any solutions. Nobody has any sort of ideas of, okay, then what? Now what? That's what I've really kept my mouth shut. Oh, thanks, Andy. What's up, Andy? Thanks for watching. I've really kept my mouth shut for a minute. Not for any reason. I was just kind of gathering my thoughts on how I feel about the defunding the police situation. And if the narrative of defund the police is more so in the terms of reorganize and reform the police and make it harder to be a cop, train them better, make it where we have better practice, that's great. But these idiots who were all cops are bad, take down the police, get rid of them. Okay, and then what? You have to, if you're going to say that, you have to have then what, an answer for what comes next, or you're going to lose all rational people. I mean, I understand the anger. I understand seeing instances. There's tons of bad cops, obviously, as there's tons of bad everything. There's tons of bad teachers. There's tons of bad doctors. Shitty people exist in every field. Duh. So I understand the idea of like the cops have gotten away for too much. The unions are too powerful. Cool. I got it. I'm on your side for a lot of it. I'm just saying, if you're going to say all cops are bad, okay, then what? You have to have, you can't just, it's like, you can't just come in and burn down the house because you said, oh, the house is broken. Okay. Now, what are you going to build instead? And someone like me, I know I'm just like, I'm only going to speak for myself, but I think there's a lot of people. In fact, I know there's a lot of people who think like me, who don't want to say anything because they don't want to get attacked. They don't want to get attacked online. I'm speaking so fast. I'm mumbling my words here. But I don't give a shit anymore. You know, I'm a podcaster. I like doing stuff. I'm going to just share my opinions. And if people want to attack me for it, great. I don't care. I mean, you know, it's not like I have anything to get taken away from me. My point is, man, I'm on your side most of the way. I want to see massive police reform. I want to see our police demilitarized. I want to see a world where we can get back to where people actually like cops because cops and the relationships they have with the community is a healthy one. But no one's offering any like real, or at least if they are, I'm not seeing it. So if anybody could point me in that direction, that would be awesome. If anybody's like, hey, here's like a real serious agenda that could make things better, I would love to see that. But I feel like what mainstream media has been focusing on, and a lot of my loudest friends on social media are focusing on, is it's just the people that are like, everything sucks, it's all garbage, tear it down. And it's just, I can't think most people in this country are going to get on board with that. And like, it's, you know, you started, what's that line from that movie Tropic Thunder? It's like, you can never go full retard, right? When they're, and I know you're not supposed to say that word anymore. I'm just referencing the movie, whatever. But there's like the thing where Ben Stiller's character plays a retarded guy in the movie, and it like ruined his career. And then I think Donnie Jeb's character, what did I say, Donnie Jeb? God damn it, no. Robert Downey Jr.'s character says, "You never go full retard," and that would be like the one piece of advice I would go with, like my super political friends. I don't really have any friends that are like the fringe, loud conservative types. I have a lot of like moderate conservative friends, a lot of, I don't even have a lot, I have like a handful. And then most of my friends are pretty liberal. And the loudest ones that say, all cops are bad, tear it all down. It's like, I just don't, like, what is your real goal here? It's sort of like when I look at the people who, you know, the people that were in like the Chaz in Seattle, or the Occupy City Hall in New York, and it's all these like young, mostly white kids. It's just, what is your plan? What is your plan overall? I get it. Capitalism is, you know, the devil. And I do agree, man. So here's the deal, man. Like a lot of people like me, I think we got to, you know, totally reshape and fix how our capitalistic country functions, how we look at like our consumer economy. I get it. But then when you go full crazy and you're like, burn it all down, it's all evil. Okay, then what? You can't just say everything sucks, we got to destroy it, and expect like 90% of people to not think you're insane. You got to come with some real solutions. So I don't know. It's just annoying. But I will mention this on that note, since I was kind of going on a little bit of a rant on capitalism. I did see this today. And again, I'm a capitalist. I think capitalism is great. I think unchecked capitalism is a real problem. But all of the greatest inventions and like innovations and things that we value in the world have no communist country has ever invented anything, or a communist system rather, has ever invented anything that like people use day to day to get through the world. But anyway, let me get to this real quick. So this is from CNBC. So this says Jeff Bezos added $13 billion to his net worth in one day. So it says, let's see here. So the Bloomberg Billionaires Index put Bezos' estimated net worth at $189 billion at the end of Monday. Bezos, who is the world's wealthiest man, according to both Bloomberg and Forbes, experienced the huge one-day spike in his net worth after Amazon stock surged during the day, thanks to a positive Wall Street forecast. Okay, so Amazon's shares spiked by 8%. This is when I want to go back to my friends who are, to generalize here, my most liberal friends, my most left-leaning friends, also tend to be the same folks who are like, we got to stay locked down, it's for safety, etc. And I understand the idea where, COVID is real. We don't really know how deadly it is. Sometimes it's really deadly. I have a lot of friends who've had it, said it felt like a bad flu, and they recovered. But I understand we still got to take precautions. But it's weird to me that the same people, to generalize, obviously, but a lot of the same people who were so hyper against, like, our growing billionaire class, the wealth disparity being out of control, and just mad about everything in that world, are the same folks who are like, keep everything locked down. It's too dangerous to reopen. What do you think is going to happen? Obviously, the Jeff Bezoses of the world are the only ones who are going to be able to weather this storm. I mean, I don't like, how do you not see the obvious situation there? The only way that regular people are going to be able to take care of themselves is if we reopen the economy, let people get back to work, and build some fucking wealth for themselves. And I know a lot of people who are like, oh, yeah, you're just obsessed with consumerism. You just want to have people consume and buy, consume and buy. Okay, I understand the thinking there to an extent. But you have to realize that, like, governments can't just print money. Now, I agree, we need more stimulus checks. We need to figure out a situation where we can put a moratorium on rents temporarily and mortgages and figure out, like, how to keep people from going completely broke, from losing their homes. I understand that. But you can't just, like, print currency forever and expect that to be a viable solution. And the other thing, too, is people with resources will always figure out a way to protect themselves and their family and their children. So, for example, right now we know it's pretty much a sure thing that school is not going to reopen in the fall. I get that, right? Maybe it is too dangerous. I don't know. It seems like a lot of people are saying that. I'm going to defer to folks smarter than me. That's the situation we're in now. But then you have to understand that, like, the wealthiest people in this country, their children are still going to get educated, and the poorest aren't. The poorest people in this country who don't have the option to figure out a homeschooling situation, who can't bring in someone to educate their kids, who might have to work as an essential worker and just, like, hope their kids can do online schooling, they are so fucked. And people with resources, they're not just going to be like, well, school's canceled, whatever. No, they're going to take care of their kids. They're going to take care of their families, obviously. They're going to figure out how to educate. Listen, if I had children right now and my wife and I had to go to work, there is no way we would not scrape together every penny we had to make sure that our kids got educated. And it's just like, I understand that schools might be too dangerous to reopen, but this is going to have a serious ripple effect that people are not talking about. Think about the poorest kids in this country, especially if they're really little, right? Like, if you're over 12, school is important, but you've, like, basically mastered the essentials. Hopefully, you know how to do basic math, you know how to read, you know how to do, like, kind of common sense, obvious things. Now think about the poorest kids in our country, the poorest families in our country, right? And their kids are at home, and their parents have to go to work, and then it's sort of just a thing where it's like, well, I hope you learn. If you're a little kid, if you're, like, in first, second, third grade, and you're not learning how to read, how to do basic math, how to understand just, really basic fundamental problem solving, what is going to happen long term? Like, people were not, again, I understand. You know what? Maybe we got to keep school shut down. I'm not saying that's not the reality, but, like, what is the option otherwise? What are we going to do otherwise? We have no good options. So I don't know. I don't have kids yet, but if I did, again, my wife and I, or my fiance, but I just say wife because it's easier. Like, we're in that, like, pre-parenting window, and, like, so my brain, when you're thinking about buying a Jeep or something and you notice Jeeps all the time now, like, I'm so pre-dad. Everything I focus on is like, man, like, what would I do if I was a parent now? And again, man, I just really think, like, people got to understand that, like, shutting things down and just, like, waiting, that's not an option. I mean, it is an option, sort of, I guess, like, we're doing it, but, like, that shouldn't be an option. Just sitting around and waiting, like, well, like, I don't know, like, we'll just have to wait. There's no, like, the virus is here. We know it's here. It's not going away. So I just don't understand what the logic is behind that. And I wanted to jump to something else that I noticed. So, again, as I've said 1,000 times, but I'll say it again, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm pretty politically independent. I'm probably going to vote third party, in this election because, as I said it more in the last episode, but the short version of it is I think that I'm so fed up with our two-party system. I don't actually give a shit if Biden or Trump wins at this point, and I'd rather just show more support for third-party options. Yeah, Ricky, I agree with you. By the way, my buddy Ricky's watching live right now. This whole situation has screwed poor people over. Yes, 100%. The poor are getting the brunt of this worse than anybody else. But anyway, I've noticed a trend here. I've noticed a trend where a lot of people on social media post, you might not be a racist for Trump, but if you vote for Trump, you have no problem with racism. Now, I understand the logic behind that, and I'm not going to defend that Trump says a lot of really terrible, un-PC, sometimes racist things, for sure. But if you're going to use that standard where you're basically saying, well, if you don't have a problem with this person's racist comments, then you basically are a racist. You have to apply that logic across the board. Now, what I mean here, before you're like, what are you talking about? Let me finish my thought. With that same logic, a person who's conservative might be like, well, you might not be a fan of having leaders who basically have early onset dementia and can't make a coherent sentence and have no real like basic logical functions skills, but you're okay with that person. Like basically what I'm saying here, I haven't articulated this as well as I want to, but like if you watch any of the interviews or public speeches from Biden lately, he's so incoherent. I'm not a doctor. I couldn't say he actually has dementia, but the guy clearly can't speak well. He can't make a proper sentence. He's not fit to be a leader. So it's just funny to me that like you want to like apply it on one side, but if someone were to try and make the argument the other way, you lose your minds. And again, I'm not a fan of either of these guys. I honestly, like I said, I don't care at this point. I really don't care who wins because I don't think anything will change. I have heard some fairly convincing things from a few of my more conservative friends of why Biden getting elected might be a serious problem, big picture. I'm a bit skeptical of the conspiracy theory stuff. I'm not going to dive into it this episode. I want to read up on some more, and I might do an episode over the weekend, or if not, I'll do one next week, and I'll talk on it. But the one thing I because I'm still kind of like, I don't know, like, do I really have a preference who wins? I do a little bit hope Biden wins, only so that when things inevitably don't get any better, then it'd be like, see, it doesn't matter who's in charge. This whole two-party thing, it's broken. It's so broken that, like, regardless of which, nothing's going to get fixed. I guess, though, they would just be like, well, it's because of all the damage Trump has done. So I don't know. Ricky, what do you think? I know if you're still watching, let's see here. He just responded. Okay, I think a stronger argument is that Biden is a racist through policy. Yeah, I mean, that could be, I suppose. I'm not going to defend, things like the crime bill because I need to read up more on the nuances of it. And I think that it's probably likely that both Trump and Biden have said some pretty problematic things and endorsed some pretty problematic things that have hurt poor minority communities. So I'm not going to defend that by any means. I just am becoming more and more aware of what to me feels like hypocrisy and double standards across the board, right? Where it seems like the logic is, well, even if you don't like Trump, but if he's your pick of the better, the lesser of the two evils, you effectively are signing off on like blatant racism. And I just want to highlight that if you hold that standard, that's fine, but it kind of goes both ways, meaning if you think Biden is the lesser of two evils, you're also signing off on like, we don't have, like, this person might be completely mentally unfit to be our president. I mean, it really feels to me, like I've said before, Trump feels like a dog like a rabid dog just off a leash, just biting people and no one can control him. Biden truly feels like a sock puppet. And the reason that he scares me is because it really seems now like if South Park were to make an episode of like a political leader that's truly run by the deep state, by the elites, and they just are a yes man and answer to whoever's really pulling the levers, they would for sure create a Joe Biden type figure, right? So anyway, I don't want to do too much political stuff today because I don't know, man. I'm political-esque. Again, I'm kind of liberal, I'm kind of conservative, but I'm really oscillating back and forth. But the only thing I've really come to have a very strong opinion on during all of this is I'm absolutely voting third party. And again, I'm not even a libertarian. I don't even have a lot of things that line up with the Libertarian Party. I'm simply so like this to me more than ever, as I've said over and over, proves like our system is so broken. Why not vote third party just to show like, hey, we got to do something different. But oh, here we go. Sean's saying, I want to go back to when the president is not in my face every day, all day. Yeah, Sean, I agree with you, but I think it's just an unfortunate factor of the way the 24-hour news cycle, the media, all that stuff. And my buddy Steve here, he said, you almost have to vote on the values of the party, your choice, abortion rights, gun rights, etc., knowing full well your candidate will not live up to your expectations. Yeah, I do agree with that to a large extent. That makes sense for a lot of people. For me, I don't. A lot of the big hot button issues that people like, take pro-choice for example. I don't have 100% sure stance where I stand. I will say with that, this is one of those things I've talked about before, where there's like the morality side and the practical side. I am still pro-choice because practically first of all, I don't really have a dog in the fight, simply because, and I know there's a lot of ways to look at this argument, but I'm just like, look, man, I'm a man. I'm never going to have to make that choice for myself. So I don't have that strong of an opinion on it. I don't know how I feel necessarily on like the morality of it. I'm very torn, but even so, practically, I don't think it makes sense to outlaw that. But back to your point, yeah, if you have a strong thing like that, like that's your key issue, fine. But I just think, man, like now more than ever, it would just benefit all of us to just say like, you know what, screw this binary system that doesn't really help 99% of people. And I don't know, I hope that we start seeing more and more third-party options. And I think the key is to start locally. Start in your local city council, mayoral elections, even at the state level, and then maybe we slowly build it out from there. And then maybe one day we could have a lot of different, third and fourth party options, when it comes to president. But I wanted to highlight something that I was talking about before, about how much better I felt just unfollowing all the people on Facebook that just, I don't know them. Like they're just random comics and stuff that I just keep seeing their like anger posts. And I was like, why is this in my feed? And what I'm trying to do now, a big thing now that we're like really like this, we're 4 months into this new world, and I think we're going to be this way for a long, long time. And I've really caught myself falling into these traps of like, I'm angry, I'm mad, what do I do? Another thing that I work at this studio where I'm recording right now, Third Wheel Podcast Studio. Shout out to these guys, they're awesome. And a big reason, this is even before COVID, I was working here. I wanted to start working here because I was like, I want to build up a skill set that is going to be valuable in the new era. And this, more than ever, I'm learning a lot about engineering and video editing, all that kind of stuff. What I want to encourage people is, listen, I understand that like, a lot of people are in tough spots right now. Their jobs have gone away. Mine did. I used to work in entertainment. Obviously, there's nothing shooting anymore. There's no comedy. I had a job in tourism. That's gone. I think the key here, man, is you gotta accept the L in the sense of this is what it is. You can sit around being angry, but then for what? My point is there's going to be a new wave of stuff we can do. Like my earlier point, right? With people are going to definitely start looking more and more into ways to educate their children because of the school system is so broken now. If you have a skill set in something, figure out what is your skill set. What do you have that you can offer to the world? And there's a way to, the internet now, there's so many ways you can monetize that and share that with people. I want to read this other comment real quick before I jump into that. So Steve was saying, if we could get like 15 to 20% to a third party, it could wake people to the fact that maybe we could get away from the two-party system. Yeah, 100%, dude. Absolutely. And that's what I'm going to get back to my point on the job skill stuff. I want to mention this. That's what is the most angering thing. When people say, oh, you vote for a third party, it's a waste. Or also my idiot friends, or I'll backpedal, what I believe to be my misinformed friends that say a vote for a third party is basically a vote for Trump. What are you talking about? That's like saying a vote for third party is a vote for Biden, or a vote for third party is a vote for Kanye. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, use your logical thinking. That doesn't make any sense. A vote for third party is a vote for a third party. That's all that it is. And I ranted about this last time, but just one more time. The system is set up to make you think that you can't not vote left or right because it's too risky. It's a system designed to make you feel trapped. But anyway, the point I was trying to make here that I want to encourage people to do, that I've been doing, that has really helped me feel so much better during all of this. Figure out what do you like doing and what are your skills, or what are you willing to learn, you know? Maybe like my wife, she loves flowers. She's so into flowers. And she had this new idea about starting her own little flower cart business, and maybe as like a side hustle, you know, she'll find ways to go to different things and do like a door-to-door or a event-to-event or whatever, you know, sort of interaction is, like a flower thing, right? It's a new hustle that maybe we could figure out how to make work in this new world. My only point is, like, there's so much on the internet. There's everything I know how to do, audio engineering and video editing wise, I've mostly been learning from YouTube. And, you know, I understand that I just feel like a lot of my friends on Facebook, it all comes back to that. They get trapped in these cycles of like, everything sucks, world sucks, it's Trump's fault. No. I was like, that's great. I understand that. The anger, yeah, a lot of things do suck right now. But like, then what? You can sit and be mad. I mean, but not just if you want to sit and be angry and blame everybody else, that's fine. And there is a lot of blame to go around with our leadership. I'm not going to defend it at all. There's a lot of blame to go around with the leadership. But just accept the fact that, like, your life will not change until you change it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why that's such a hard thing for people to understand. The world is not fair. It could be more fair. We should push to make it more fair. Absolutely. We should work hard to make it as fair as possible, but just accept the fact, understand that, like, ultimately your life will not change until you make it a priority to change it. Let's see what Ricky said. Ricky said, it's a democracy that encourages you not to engage in democracy, so it's not a democracy. Yes, Ricky, 100%. You know what's funny, man? So just the fact, Ricky and Steve, shout out to both these guys. They're great. They watch a lot of my stuff. Ricky is probably one of my most progressive friends, and Steve is one of my most conservative friends, and they're both great guys. And they both have very intelligent things to say. And they just happen to have fundamentally opposing views on a lot of things. And that's fine. You should have people in your life that don't agree with you on things. You know why? Because that's how you learn. That's how you open your eyes. Both these guys, I guarantee you, there's things they believe that I don't believe in. And that's okay. Because you know why? I know they're great dudes. I know they're decent people. And that is so. And you know what's funny is, like, if I didn't know them in person, if I was just going on purely the way that, like, we communicate in this ridiculous form of social media, I might be like, oh, well, they didn't agree with this thing, so they must be a bad person. Like, most people are good people. Think about that. Think about your neighbors, the day-to-day interactions you have with people, right? Like, if you go to a dinner party and you meet somebody, it's like, oh, that was a great guy. You know, this is what's so wrong with our world now, and why it's so bad that we're so locked up all the time. We're not interacting in person. We're only interacting over the internet, where it's the worst, most stifled form of communication. And we're just, like, going in these, like, hate traps. End the hate trap. If I had a slogan for 2020, it would be stop the hate cycle. And start just talking. And don't, when I say talk to people who disagree with you, don't just go in these back and forth comment threads. That's not how you learn. No, honestly, what I encourage people to do, myself included, if I see something that someone posts that I really disagree with, that, like, motivates me enough to be like, man, that seems really wrong, I'm going to message them and be like, hey, I'm really curious about that thing you posted. It seems like I have some different views, and if you don't mind, I'd love to have like a video chat with you just because I want to learn. Maybe we could try more of that. And I'm a bit skeptical. I don't think people will do that because it's awkward and it takes a lot of work and it's, you know, frustrating. And also it requires having, and I try to be as informed as I can on the things that I post and talk about. I could get better about it. I'm working on it to, like, when I share something, when I read something, to make sure I have all the information. But I've noticed that, like, back to my original post earlier, right, where I shared a clip with Joe Rogan and Ben Shapiro, two very famous podcasters who many people love and many people despise them. And I've noticed that, like, a lot of people, and this is across the board with any political figure, or any public figure, rather, any figure who's very big on media, right? A lot of people who dislike them, they don't even actually know a lot of their work. They just know, like, this, like, the soundbite Twitter version of them, and that's enough to be like, they're evil, they're bad. And I don't know. we just got to get away from that. It's really, really toxic. So I'm almost at an hour here. I try not to go on too long. I want to end with one last thing, though. Something highlighting like how broken and absurd our city has become. This is from NBC Los Angeles, and I shared this on my Facebook wall. It says, LA fines businesses $356 for posting "We're open" signs. So effectively what happened here, and this is an example of like why a city like LA is so, God, it's just so broken, and I don't understand what the logic is that, so for example, Crave Cafe in Studio City, I'm reading from the article here, where business is down 70% during the pandemic. The owner last month hung a banner that says "We're open for takeout and delivery," which I think is great. I really feel for all businesses, well, let me rephrase, all small businesses, especially the food and hospitality industry. So they're putting up a banner letting folks know, hey, we are open. Please come in for takeout and delivery. That's awesome. And the city fined them for not having the proper permit to hang a banner. Are you fucking kidding me? That is what are you doing? That is so insane. Now, our mayor, Eric Garcetti, that idiot, his exact quote was, let's see here, says, "I'm happy to follow up with you about that particular case," said Garcetti. "It's always my instinct to give businesses, especially now, to give businesses breaks." So, I mean, if I were the mayor's PR team, I would immediately drop all of these fines. I would issue a public statement, a public apology. I mean, this is so insane to me how this could happen. It just proves how broke the bureaucracy. This is why people don't trust the government. The bureaucracy involved that you're going to fine a business now for not having their proper permit signed, but you let people sleep on the street? Oh, yeah, it's fine. Put your tent wherever you want. Yeah, under the highway overpass or on the sidewalk. And if you want to like have like a vendor cart on the sidewalk, that's fine. Yeah, sell fruit or whatever else. And by the way, the vendor carts, I don't have a problem with those guys. I think they're just trying to make an honest buck, and more power to you. But I'm just saying, it's like weird that like the guy on the street selling, chopped up watermelon with no health code permits, obviously, he's just doing it. He's okay, but Crave Cafe putting a banner up, they're going to find them. And you know why? Because I mean, if that doesn't prove that all of this shit is basically like one step away from, like almost a local mafia shakedown, I don't know what else is. That is so egregious and insane to me. And I really hope, I saw a lot of people sharing this. I really hope a lot of people, see how ridiculous it is, and the city rescinds that. So anyway, I hope I covered some interesting stuff this episode. Again, I appreciate you guys who watch live. It really means a lot. This podcast is kind of an evolving thing. I'm going to have interviews again. I'll do some. I don't really love the Zoom interview, but I'm going to do more of them. I'm going to have folks come in. But yeah, I'm doing a little bit of commentary, a little bit of news. I'm going to reach out to some of my more liberal friends, some of my conservative friends. I want to try and have a just increased dialogue with people who disagree with me. And, hopefully a little bit we can all learn from each other. So, thank you guys for listening. As always, I appreciate and love all critiques and criticism, as long as they're actually somewhat productive and not just, telling me I suck. Even that, I don't care. And yeah, thank you guys again. I hope if you did like it, you subscribe and share. And yeah,